All right, folks, I'm back with the revised edition of, or tutorial on what I've learned since I made my first video on making these masks. I decided to start using my Juki serger, and it makes things a lot faster and easier. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. So when I first got the fabric, I was sewing down a 1/4 inch edge like that, right? Just with my regular machine. Well, now I'm going to serge it so I don't have to worry about folding it over or anything. So a serger basically is a machine that allows you to wrap the edges and clean the edges and cut uneven edges. So it's really convenient. So I'm just going to run this through and I'll show you what it does. This is a tip that my friend Pat Willits told me about, and she's a wonderful sewer also. So basically it does this. So if you could see, it gives you a wrapped edge like you see on professional fabrics or clothing and stuff, and that's what I do there. So I'm going to do both sheets, the top and the bottom. And basically you just cut. If you don't have a serger, then of course go ahead and do what you normally would do. But I'm using a serger in a lot of different areas that I would normally use my machine, and I'll show you those areas right as I go through this tutorial. So there's your two edges, right? Okay, so I'm going to put right sides together, and we're going to go to the regular machine and sew. You could serge it if you like, but I just find a regular machine has a tighter stitch than sometimes the sergers, because I'm just using a 3-thread serger instead of a 4. So let me go to my regular machine and then we'll catch up. All right, so here we are at my regular machine. I've got the right sides together of both these fabrics. And again, I'm going to go right to the edge, about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm using my finger here to gauge on the 3 inches going in. So we're going to do that. Let's back stitch first to lock and then go forward. And at that point, I usually reinforce it a couple stitches forward and backwards. Then I move it over and I gauge, you know, the 3 inches about right there. Lock it back and forth to keep it strong edge. Sew that down. Now what I'm doing different than I was in the first one, before I had y'all sew around this edge, put the pipe cleaner there, and then this edge. Well, now I'm going to leave the edges open and just sew the bottom, and I'll show you why in a minute. So just kind of watch. The first thing we're going to do is fold it in half and find the center point, and I usually just use a marker and put a little dot like that so that they could see where the pipe cleaner is going to be placed. All right, so then again, 1/4 inch, make sure your edges are even, the selvages, and you go in with the regular machine, and about this point I grab one of my chenille or pipe cleaners, kind of make sure I get the center point of that, and then I get a little closer, lift the needle, turn the dial to a tight zigzag, and then I just start zigzagging it under. Sometimes you have to lift the foot up, and it goes a little slower here because it's a tighter edge or a tighter stitch, so it doesn't go as fast as a regular stitch does. Now when you get to the end, you're going to back it up several times so that that sharp point is encased in all that stitching, so it doesn't come out and poke them. Change the dial back to straight edge, and then just complete that seam. All right, so that's the difference. Prior to this, I was sewing this and this, these edges together too, and then turning it right side out. The problem is, and you probably have already figured this out, but the problem was that when you put it right side out, and then you pinch pleated it, and then you sewed that down and try to turn it over. It was really hard to get the needle through that fabric. There's a lot of fabric to deal with. So this is so much easier going like this. So anyways, I'm turning the fabric like this. So now the right sides are out. All right, now I'm going to show you what I do next. All right, so here's the fabric. I'm at my ironing station, which is really behind me. And I basically just kind of put my finger in there and kind of pull on the edges to make sure we get the clean edge. And then I'm just going to lightly touch that. And then the same thing, you kind of pull with your finger so you get all the way to the edge. And if you pull this straight like this, just from one end tight to the other, it automatically folds where it needs to fold. So I ironed that. Now this is going to be the front side of the mask. And what I do now is I put some spray starch, just a little bit. So here's the pipe cleaner inside. This is the opening. Okay. And all I do is, of course, just pinch pleat. And I just kind of eye it myself. Just pretty simple. As long as you see 3 pleats that are kind of evenly spaced. So once I do that, I iron it down like this, front and back, just to get a nice clean edge. All right, so it looks like that. It makes it easier. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to serge this edge. So where before it was already sewn, you know, and then it was all the seams were inside and everything, and you rolled it under. Well, this is going to make it a flatter seam on both sides so that when you do roll it under, it's not that much fabric to go through. It's that you don't have that extra seam on the inside. So I hope y'all can see that. Let me put this on hold. All right, so we're back at the serger. And usually mine end up being a little over 8 inches long, even after I turn it under. So all I do is just clean up this edge. I put my serger right there. And this is the beauty of a serger. It does a lot of stuff for you. So you just kind of hold it together with your finger, but be very careful with a sharp knife on this that does the cutting of the fabric. But you see how it cuts the fabric already. It's already edged. It looks really nice and neat. You just pull these extra threads at the end tight and then snip. Okay, so I'm going to do the other side. And I'm just going to do, usually with the dimensions that I've cut these, 1/4 inch. Oh, just cleaning off the edge is really good. It's about an 1/8 to 1/4 inch. Okay, so again, you just pull that. All right, so that now the seam is clean and looks nice. All right, so what we're going to do now is just fold over the size that you need for the casing. And, you know, again, if you're casing, depending on what you're using, you could do that. If you have string that you want to use instead of the rubber band, at this point, all you would do is lay the string right on there and just zigzag that down and then keep the lengths, because some of them are wanting to tie them behind their head. And here's an example of, well, I used to have an example. I don't know where it is right now. But anyways, let's do the sewing because most people don't have a serger. That's why I'm showing you this way. So I folded it under just like that. And now we're going to go to my sewing machine, which is right here. And I'm going to sew that seam down. No pinnings necessary. If you've ironed everything, it's pretty sharp. The sharp edge. Just go through, lock the edges real good. And what I mean by lock the edges is when you go back and forth to, you know, at the ends here, I go 2 or 3 times because it's going to get a lot of wear and tear right there with the elastic. So there's one end, and then I'll do the same thing with this other side here. So just feed that in there. Do a back up and fold the rest down. Just like that. So there are really a lot of different ways you can make these. I don't have it too straight, but sometimes when you feed it through the serger, it kind of pulls apart a little bit more, but that won't matter. When they open it all up, you're not going to even be able to tell. So this is basically what it looks like. And again, the opening for the filter, the pipe cleaner nose wire. And then my husband had this cool tool because I was using just like a large safety pin to pull the elastic through, but he had this in his baseball equipment, and he used to rethread his gloves with leather, and he saw me struggling to get the elastic through this area because it's pretty, it's all these little folds make it hard, and basically this saved my life. So you basically just thread that through, and then, well, I don't have a piece of elastic with me, but you just put it through the hole and then you pull it back out. So if you have anything that's similar to that, if not, then you're still going to have to use your elastic pullers or safety pins. So hopefully this helps make it a little bit easy for you guys, and continue sewing. We're doing good. So let me know if you have any other questions. Thanks. Bye.